Allison Harper, dismissed by her elite Boston family as the failure after dropping out of MIT, secretly builds a groundbreaking healthcare tech company in San Francisco. 5 years later, at her brother's engagement dinner, her anonymity collapses when her future sister-in-law reveals Allison is the founder and CEO of a $340 million company, forcing a collision between achievement and family expectations that opens the door to reconciliation and complicated healing. I begin the cinematic beginning. Note, this is a fresh opening that sets tone, character, and atmosphere while remaining faithful to your emotional core. The doorbell cut through the low hum of conversation like a dropped glass. Allison Harper paused mid-sip, a slender stem of water sweating in her hand, and felt that old tide of pressure, threaded, familiar, and precise, roll through the room. The Harper parlor smelled of lemon oil and lilies, a scent that stitched her childhood to the furniture itself, a scent that meant other people's approval was the currency, and her uneven ledger had become a family cautionary tale. She'd rehearsed the night a dozen ways on the plane: the casual smile, the measured laugh, the small mention of tech that would close the conversation and keep the walls at bay. But rehearsals never teach you how the body remembers humiliation. Her fingers trembled as she laid the invitation on the console, cream envelope, family crest pressed into its flap, and told herself the truth. She was not the frightened girl who left Boston with 2 suitcases. She was the one who had built a language hospitals now use to talk to each other. Someone else's disbelief wouldn't change the code that had saved lives. The front door opened. Her father's silhouette filled the frame first, tall, tailored, exacting, and he moved with that economy of gestures that always made routine contact feel like an inspection. "You made it," he said, the words clipped and formal, a handshake softened into a hug that never quite reached the heart. Inside, the living room had been arranged like a stage. Photographs glittered in gilt frames. James's side of the wall had multiplied like an exhibit: caps, diplomas, staged travel photos, while her own had been allowed only one time frame, the one they decided represented her. Hesitating, unfinished, a map with a missing key. Aunt Meredith, arriving last and smelling of oil paint and strong coffee, caught her eye and sent a toast up that needed no words. "You belong to yourself." Dinner began in the polished cadence of the well-practiced, polite laughter, careful compliments, the soft clink of crystal. Allison sat between Meredith and an uncle who had always addressed her with gentle condescension. Across the table, James and his fiancée sparkled in the soft lamplight, another gilded Harper success. It would have been easy to sit small, to let the script run. For 5 years she'd worn that smaller costume and let the family's uneasy pity wrap around her like a blanket. But tonight a line had been crossed that wasn't about money or prestige. It was about being seen for who she had been, quietly and stubbornly, while everyone else replaced her story with a cautionary tale. Conversation flicked toward work, an opening James offered like a needle to the balloon of her composure. "Allison's still in tech in San Francisco, yes?" he said, the inflection laced with all the assumptions of a man accustomed to being admired. She started with something light. "Healthcare technology," she said. The words landed like pebbles. People nodded, as if settling into old shapes. Then the pebbles became stones when Stephanie, James's fiancée, leaned forward with the genuine warmth of someone who did not yet know the rules of this room. "I actually work with a company called Integrated Health Solutions," she said. "We use a platform called Metalink. It's revolutionary." Time contracted. The name hung like a banner in a church. Allison's silence became a magnet. People turned as if a single voice had been heard through the curtains. The world tightened to the distance between the syllables and the truth she had kept wrapped beneath modesty and strategy. In a room that had invested so much in who she was supposed to be, the moment of recognition would act less like applause and more like a slow, necessary unmasking. It would not be spectacular fireworks. It would be surgical, intimate, and impossibly loud in its consequences.